Hey guys, today I'll be interviewing the author of The Dynamic Power of the Sudden Shaolin Kung Fu, Ron Willer. How are you doing, Ron Willer?
I'm doing good. How's everybody going?
Thank you, thank you. I would like to ask a few questions, and I got very interested in the Jiao Ga system. Could you introduce yourself to the audience, please, of who you are?
Yeah, my name is Ron Wheeler. I've been studying martial arts since 1977. I started when I was 12 years old. I started in the Jiao Ga system under my late Sifu. He just passed away early this year. Under Dean Chen in his school later in '81, and then with the system pretty much ever since. I dabbled in a couple other things. I did some Hong Kong for a little bit. Dabbled in the Ting Tong Long 7-star praying mantis for a bit under Glenn Tapscott, who came from Chulun up in New York, or late Seafood Chulun in New York. But I've pretty much been doing Jiao ever since. I mean, yeah, 37 years doing one thing.
Thank you so much. I would like to ask you for the audience, what is Jiao Ga? What is actually Jiao Ga? Like, what's the combination? Because there's so many martial arts. I used to take Hung Fut system. You know what is Hung Fut, right?
Correct.
Right, right. It's a combination of Hung Gar and Fut Gar, but now I'm into Wing Chun. But can you give a little bit like description to what is Jiao Ga?
Sure. Jiao Ga, the old name is Hong Tao Choi Mei, which stands for the translation is the head of Hong and tail of Choi. Some people will say a longer name, which was Hong Tao Choi Mei Bak Siu Lam, which covers all three styles that make up the Jiao Ga. So Jiao Ga is a combination of the Hong Ga, which is its base, then the Choi Ga, and then the Northern Shaolin. Jiao Long, the founder or the main founder, he and his four other brothers originally did the Hong Ga from their uncle, Jiao Honghe, who was a student of Wong Kei Ying, the father of Wong Fei Hong. So our Hong Ga comes from Wong Kei Ying, not his son Wong Fei Hong. And then he learned the Choi Ga from the Northern Shaolin in the Keluxi Temple in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and then combined all that into what you have known to what we now know as Jiao Ga. It was renamed the Jiao Ga after he died in 1919.
Okay, I noticed a similarity between Hung Fut and Jiao Ga. Is there a similarity to that?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Yeah, we share a common system with the Hong style, with the isotonic movement. So anytime you have, I think, Jiao Ga and the Hong Fut, no, so it would be Jiao Ga, Hong Ga, system like Fu Jiao Pai, anything that has any type of isotonic movement where you're pushing, it's like you're pushing against the wall, and the arms are vibrating, you're doing more Heigong or hard Qigong. The punches that we have in the Jiao Ga as opposed to the Hong Fut punches are definitely more straighter and more linear based on the Hong Ga system because that's its base. And then you add the Fut Ga or the Buddha palm to soften things up and smooth it out a little bit. Where we come in as far as the difference, so we have the straight and the circular. So the same punches you would see in Choi Fut, like Sao Choi, Pao Choi, Cup Choi, Biu Zhong, or Bean Cup. We share those same punches. We share the same exact punches as Choi Fut and the Choi Ga.
Oh, okay. Did I ask you when do you learn Jiao Ga and what made you learn Jiao Ga?
I started doing Jiao Ga again back in '81, but originally I wanted to do it earlier. Detective shows like I Spy and The Avengers and The Saint, they were always doing martial arts. They had movies like, with the late Robert Coburn, Man Like Flint, In Like Flint. And of course, watching the original Star Trek with William Shatner, or what we call Shaq Fu. He'd jump across the table and fly inside, kick somebody or chop somebody across the neck. I was always interested in that. And then, of course, the old Kung Fu TV series with the late David Carradine. Once I saw that, I wanted to do Kung Fu. But at that time, you know, in my elementary all the way through high school, I went to Catholic school all my life. And, you know, my parents were like, you know, I told them, I want to do Kung Fu. I want to do Kung Fu. And they said, okay, let's weigh this out. Catholic school, Kung Fu, all thoughts of doing Kung Fu. And what happened was Chinatown in DC at that time was really kind of a rough place to hang out. She wasn't going to let her preteen son go to Chinatown and hang out. So what happened was I was learning Taekwondo at the time in my neighborhood in the Adams Morgan section of the city in Washington, D.C. And Randy had a class in the same building that we were in, but a space above us. So one day after my class, I went up to his class, not knowing what they were teaching. I just heard these sounds. And I looked, and they were teaching Jiao Ga. And at that time, you have to remember, Jiao Ga is the oldest Kung Fu system in D.C., Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, and I think Delaware and Pennsylvania that taught authentic Kung Fu. And the school was very popular. So everybody wanted to know people that learned Jiao Ga back in 74, 75, 76. They don't practice anymore. But if they, you know, have done martial arts and they found this, oh yeah, I did Jiao Ga in Dean Chin School. It's amazing how many people I've just bumped into, you know, on the subway, on the bus, you know, that have done Jiao Ga. It's amazing.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. What are the principle or philosophy of Jiao Ga?
The philosophy is of the Jiao Ga is in the poem. I would have a hard time trying to say it in Cantonese, but it's basically in two couplets. And you know, couplets run. They're the principles that govern whatever system you practice. And the one couplet says, one half of the poem is basically to leverage your opponent's energy to your perspective. So that's pretty much the philosophy of Jiao Ga. You know, it shouldn't be two bulls just ramming each other. Again, use your opponent's strength against him, is basically. Let your opponent do the work for you. And then always expect the unexpected. Like, just because you got him down doesn't mean he's out. You know, or just because you hit him doesn't mean he's going to drop. You know.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Can you give us tips when practicing Jiao Ga?
Yeah, I mean, the main thing is foundation. A lot of people, it's different. It's different when I came up. I came up, anybody that's my age or older, you know, especially my age, we came up under what I call, learned, that have been teaching, let's say, in the 50s, 60s, 70s. We came up under there, under those guys. People like Ma Sifu, Wei Hong in New York, or Wong Tak Fei that teaches Charlie Flutt in San Francisco. People like that. We came up under those guys. So we went through the heavy stance training. We went through, you know, head punching over and over and over again, and learning one form at a time. Not, you know, I pay my money to you, I learn this form, and then I learn the next one. No, it was, you're here to learn, and if you don't meet the criteria to move on to the next thing, then you're just stuck here. So, you know, and it's too hard to teach like that now. It's very difficult to run a commercial way of learning. So any tips for Jiao Ga? Foundation, 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 foundation. When I was in Hong Kong back in 2009, I met with the then chairman of the Jiao Biu Athletic Association, and he was a second generation Jiao Ga practitioner. His father had learned from Jiao Biu, and so he had actually seen Jiao Biu as a small child himself during the course of his life. But he said Jiao Biu always stressed foundation, foundation, foundation. That's because that's what's going to benefit you later on down the road.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Foundation. So basically, everything that we have to do is start always from the basic, right? But let me see. I'm trying to think of a way. Okay. Why did you create your book?
Well, the first book, what happened was I started working the first book, which was The Power of Shaolin Kung Fu. I started working on that back in 2001, and then I sort of shelved it because I was like, I don't know. And then what happened was I made the U.S. team in 2004 and went to the first World Traditional Wushu Festival and Championships in Shenzhou, China. My mother had just died in March of 2004, and that was the last thing she and I discussed, was me trying out for the team, because I told her, I said, look, I'm 39, I'm not sure, how much, longer my body's gonna be able to do this. I want to try it one more time to go to China, and she thought it was a good idea, and then she passed away, unfortunately. But so after she passed, after I made the team and represent, I was the only Jiao person on the team, and won double gold in both my events. I met two guys, Casey and Perry, that were from the Hong Kong team that also did Jiao and knew Chen Menchung. So they knew my Qigong. They referred to him as Siba, which is older uncle. And so, unfortunately, they spoke English. So I got lucky there. And so they went back and got back to Hong Kong and told Chen Menchung all about me, that they had met me, that I had won these divisions and such and such and this, that, the other. And so I decided, I'm going to go ahead and do the book. But I needed to get permission. So I asked, through my seeing, Li Han, I asked him, what do I do? He said, do a letter. I did the letter in English and Chinese, send it to Chen Menchung. He contacts Han here in the States. Han calls me on a Sunday morning and tells me that Chen Menchung has given me permission to do the book based on my performance in China. So I had carte blanche. The photos in the first book that you see a photo of him in the front, and then a photo of him, two photos of him when I talk about him in the book. He sent those personally. He sent those over here because he wanted those photos in the book. I didn't use all of them. I'm actually going to use some in the third book I'm working on now. But
you're working on the third book. What's it called? I mean, I was gonna get the second book, that new book that just came out, right, with the DVD.
Right. That's the first book.
Oh, that's the first book.
That's the first. You have the second.
Oh, I have the second. Okay, so the third book. What's the third book called?
So the third book, I haven't gotten a working title yet, but the third book will have 4 sets. It'll have the double-headed staff, or Sun Tao. It'll have one of our other advanced forms, Fu Pao Kin, a Tiger Cougar. It'll have the double broadsword set, or double sabers, which is the Subji Muay Fa Sundo, and then a set I created or put together for a student of mine to improve their footwork, called Seal Subji Kin, or small cross pattern fist. So that'll have 4 sets in it.
Does Jiao Ge have any drunken boxing form? I'm just curious, because I remember back then I was learning Hong Fut, and they had just a word on drunk boxing, and also drunken boxing was one of my favorite for Jackie Chan. You watched the drunken boxing with Jackie Chan, right? And
yes.
Yeah.
The Jiao Ge, of the original sets, there's one of the branches that teaches a drunken boxing set. I believe it's a branch out of Singapore. It could be Hong Kong, but originally there was no drunken set in the system. The original base of the system, as far as the forms, there was no drunken set.
Okay. I read in your book you like tiger claw, or tiger. Why? What's the symbol behind it?
Well, yeah, I grew up, like I said, I came up in the 80s. So, we were at we had a theater here in DC, down in Southwest, at LaFont Plaza, called the American Theater, which was one of the theaters owned by Shaw Brothers. So I watched Shaw Brothers movies left and right back then. I still have a massive collection now of Shaw Brothers DVDs. As a matter of fact, I was just at the Urban Action Showcase yesterday in New York, and it was given at the AMC Theater on 42nd Street, and I got a chance to meet Lu Feng from 5 Deadly Venoms. So that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. He looks great. He looks great. So to your listeners out there, Lu Feng was in movies like Kid with the Golden Arm, 5 Deadly. He plays the centipede in 5 Deadly Venoms.
It's been a long time I watched that, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, he plays Cao Chin Chung and Two Champions of Shaolin. So he was a classic staple in the Shaw Brothers. He played mostly villain characters. A couple times he played good guys, but mostly villain characters. He was really fun to watch on screen. I got a chance to meet him yesterday. But back to your question, as far as those maneuvers, you have to remember the late director Lau Kar-leung was a Honga stylist, and so there was always Honga being displayed on screen. So you got a chance to see, tiger catches the lamb, single tiger exits the cave, tiger pushes the mountain, things like that. Tiger rakes the sand. So you got to see all those techniques all the time. And so because Jiao Ga's, most Southern long range styles are tiger claw based, like the Honga, Chole Fut, Fut Ga, things like that. It showed you how to apply those techniques. And so I kind of fell in love with tiger claw techniques. I mean, it's still my favorite technique to apply when I'm free sparring, stuff like that. So, but there's always a time and place to do it.
Oh, okay. The Hung Foot system is very interesting. I'm not comparing it. It's just that, do you guys have because basically I believe that every system is really unique, so I'm not biased against anything. I'm more a curious person. That's why I do the interview. But also, I think Jiao Ga has lots to offer to the world. And also, I would like, do they have animal system inside? Because the Hung Foot system has the animal like tiger, crane. Because I know that they have the crane in there, right?
Yeah. Now the book that you have, which is the second book,
Right.
has the longest form in our system of all the old forms, which is Dai Fok Fu Kim, big subduing tiger fist. So there are not a lot of claws in the form per se, but what it is a representation of a tiger, of the endurance that you need to have. Tigers have great endurance. Small tiger, Sil Fok Fu Kim, which is small subduing tiger fist, which is in the first book that has a DVD. That's basically representative of a young tiger, almost like a cub, full of energy, moving. Big tiger is again, it's basically a two-part form. It's a chi building, chi releasing form. So the closest comparison to that would be if you look at the Honga system and you look at their first form that they normally teach, which is the Gunji Fok Fu Kim. And that form is all this isotonic movement, all this tension. And then you do it on both sides. And then at the end, and then once you finish all the tension, then you release the form and do all these techniques. And Big Tiger is akin to that. So there's where the Honga is influenced in that set. Big Tiger is a long set, man. I mean, and normally it takes, if you do it properly, it should take you anywhere between 6 to 10 minutes to do properly with the proper breathing. So it's about, again, having the endurance of a tiger. So then you have Fu Pao Kin, which is a combination of tiger and then leopard techniques. And we nickname it for us here in the States, we nickname it Big Tiger's little brother. It has isotonic movement in the form, but not as much. So it's not as much Qigong building. So now you're not concentrating so much on energy. You're going back into building energy or improving it. But it's more akin to fighting, and it's about the strength of the tiger and the speed of the leopard. So, I mean, there's the leopard section, you're moving fast. And that's one of the traits of Jiao Ga, is one of the nicknames is the fast hands of Hong. And it's not an insult to the Hong Ga system. It's basically, if you were to continue developing the Hong Ga system, then Jiao Ga is where it would go. It's basically like that. Because our hand techniques are faster, and where Hong Ga basically is one movement, two movement, stop. And the Jiao Ga will do one step and do three movements, three hand techniques all in one time. So that's the way the system is designed.
Okay. Who do you look up as a martial arts? Because a lot of for like Bruce Lee, a lot of people like Bruce Lee, the role model.
Oh yeah, no, I love Bruce. I love Bruce. But it's funny. I said an article that I'd written back in the day for Kung Fu Tai Chi magazine. A lot of the heroes I liked were, again, a lot of the stars from Shaw Brothers, Ocean Shores, Golden Harvest, things like that. So people like Lau Kar Leung, and then Liu Chao Wei, or his English name is Gordon Liu. People like who I just met, Lu Feng, the Venom, what they nicknamed the Venom Mob. People like that. Lo Mang. Lo Mang was, I like Lo Mang, and Lo Mang is actually a very good. He's the first person to demo or display the Chao Gao Tong Long, which is the Chao family Southern Mantis on screen. So a lot of what you see him do, if you look at like Kid with the Golden Arm or Shaolin Rescuers, he demos a lot of Southern Mantis in there because that's his base system. I believe he's also learned Chole Phut, and I just found out from one of my singings earlier today, who asked me how the event was in New York. He evidently did Jiao Ga, but he still refers to it by its old name, which is the Hong Tao Choi Mei.
Ah, okay. How can we master Chao Ga, and what can we do when we learn the form, and how can we use it, the technique in the form, in a fight or in sparring, or how can we use it effectively?
Well, I would always recommend. I mean, the books are basically a guide, and it's to guide you along. It gives you an insight into the system, but you really need to get to a good school. You really need to get to a good school and a good Sifu and learn properly. But the books are there to guide you along. It's also to help preserve material. One of the things the founder of Chole Phut, Chen Hong, said was, people forget, so write it down. So that's why if you look at Chole Phut, like Dr. Fei Wong Sifu, he has a lot of manuals on Chole Phut, a lot, from his teacher Lao Bun, from Wong Gong, from the Kong Chao branch. So he has all these manuals because people forget. Now you can put it on video or put it on DVD and record it, because we forget. And even my Sifu Chen said, it's okay if you forget the form, because somebody can always reteach you the form, but the techniques you should never forget. You should always remember how to apply certain things. As far as applying technique, my personal belief is that I'll preface it with this: if you can make it look like the form and carry it off and defend yourself, not a problem do I have with you. My problem is people that try to make it look like the system, because they want to make it look exactly like the system. Like, it's got to be a bow and arrow stance. I've got to hold this posture like this, and it doesn't work. And I'm like, well, it needs to be adjusted. You're not on a muck jump. You're not hitting a heavy bag. You're dealing with a live person when you're dealing with a fighting situation. And so you have to adjust to what's going on. I think tournaments is an excellent way to find out what works and what doesn't work. And I competed for years and years and years. I fought, and even though you have rules and gloves and equipment, you need to adjust your system according to that and see what you can use from the system in the scope of what you're doing right then and there. Too many people they say, well, I want to make it look like this. I'm like, I'm not arguing with you what you want to make it look like, but that's not working. So why don't you make some adjustments so you can get the W, as we call it? And that's the thing I say. They want to do, I don't know if you can see it, they want to do a Jinsao and they want to block and then do it exactly like the form. And it's like, dude, he's got gloves on and it's a jab. Why don't you just take this part? Just block. Take that part. You don't have to do all of it. Just take the parts that you need. And even Sifu, I'll tell you a quick story. Before I got into school, my singers told me Sifu had gone back to Hong Kong in the early 70s, like 74 or 5. And he came back and he had all those 8mm, tapes, the old, reel tapes. So he came back with some footage of different fights, full contact matches, and they had gloves on. And my scene said, they were like, "See, well, how come they're not sitting in this stance and using this technique?" And he said, "You guys watch way too many movies." You know, he said, that's not the reality. He said, that's not how this stuff works. He said, you know, you have to make adjustments. And I believe in that. I believe in that. And that's why, you know, that's where people go wrong. You know, they try to do it exactly. I get it, you know. And again, if you can make it work like that, okay, God bless you. I got no problem with it whatsoever. Really, I don't. But when people say, you know, I sparred a guy, you know, I'm not going to mention the system he did, you know, because it's a good system. And I sparred this guy because I work at UFC gyms. So I sparred this guy, and he's a little bit taller than me, and he wants to do it exactly like the system says. And I said, listen, your system is very well known. It's a good system. It's a Northern style. I said, but man, you know, come on, we're in the ring and we got gloves on. Come on. You know, you want to do all this, you know, all this stuff. And, you know, I'm like, come on, man. You know, meanwhile, I'm bang, bang, bang. You know, there's no difference between a Sao Choi and a hook punch. There's no difference. We're talking about a circular punch on a horizontal plane. That's what we're talking about. Who cares if you're standing up on a board and arrow stance? It's still a hook punch. You know, if you do a Pao Choi, which is a long range uppercut, or not, what's the difference? The angle of attack is exactly the same. The way you position your hand is exactly the same. One's in a long stance, one's in a short stance. It's still an uppercut. You know, so, you know, and that's why in my first book I talk about, there's a chapter called Boxing, the Missing Piece. A lot of people, and some people got upset. I'm like, listen, I'm just being real. You know, you guys want to make it look like the system. I'm trying to get the W, okay? And we're dealing with gloves, and we got rules and regulations and things we can't do, things we can do. You need to work within those confines. Now, self-defense wise, it's the same thing. People want to look like this. I'm like, you're trying to save your life. Don't screw around. Don't screw around. Keep it simple, keep it direct, and go home.
Right. How can, like, yeah, I totally hear what you're saying. Like, I've seen it too many times. Like, when we try to do like fixate on the whole system, how can we, as a practitioner or as yourself, how can we adjust for like in a sparring, or because it's hard sometimes when we believe in this system, but we want it to. I guess what I'm trying to say is, how can we be flexible without being stubborn? You know, too many people are, like you said, like people, the seafoods get angry. So how can we adjust that? Like to fighting.
Yeah, Chen Min-chung, when he had 3 visits to this country, he came in 74 before I got into the school. He came in 88, 3 years after Sifu had died, and he came in 91. And his second time was the first time I met him, and I met him 3 times. I met him in 2009 when I went. He was in fair health. He wasn't in great health. He was in fair health. But the 2 times I met him, he was in good health. So in 88, I was 23, and I was an assistant instructor under the Wong Chinese Boxing Association under Raymond Wong. And I asked him, translated through his son. He has 2 sons, Philip and Francis. Philip is the youngest. And I asked him, you know, what else, did he ever learn anything else other than Jiao Gan? He told me no. And I'm thinking, come on, you're in Hong Kong. How could you not learn something else? You know, you got all these guys, all these famous teachers. And he said, no, Jiao Gan is all I've ever done. He says, and he told me, Jiao Gan has whatever you want. It's up to you to pull it out. Now, and I took that to heart. So I look into the system. So the best part, I guess, the second part of that question is, how can you make adjustments? How can you be flexible? Don't look at, I tell my students, don't concentrate on how the technique looks, per se. Concentrate on the theories and tactics and strategies and concepts of the technique. Don't worry about how it looks. What's going on with the technique? Can you adjust the technique accordingly? Can you use the theories of the technique in different ways? There's different applications. There's hundreds of applications, and you're only limited by your imagination. So For instance, if you want, like in Jalga, we have what's called the scissors block. So if you look at the form, and you'll see it in Big Tiger in their book, we do a block like this, where it's a cutting block. It's designed to block a really tight kick, a heavy kick to the body. But that can also be applied as an armbar. If someone grabs you by the wrist, you catch by the wrist and you turn and you take them down. You crack the elbow. See what I mean? The maneuver is the same. I'm applying it on an elbow or a joint instead of blocking a kick. I can tell you, for me, in sparring in the ring, I spar quite often because I work at UFC gym. So we got guys that box, do MMA. I just had a sparring session, friendly sparring session with a guy that does savate, which is, the art of French foot fighting, or what they call au bout. I mean, that guy was fast, and he wasn't in great shape, and he totally admits it, but he'd been doing Sanda for 10 years in France and savate for 8 years. And the savate made him quicker. And he was all over the place, man. But having that experience of being in the ring, I could handle it, But he was really good. It's about, I mean, I would hate to see him in shape. If he's in shape, he'd kill somebody, So, but again, you got to be flexible. People say, well, I want to apply this technique. They say, okay, well, what are we doing with the technique? We're blocking and we're attacking the head. Okay. So you got gloves on. Well, you can't claw with gloves. So what do? You parry and punch. It's still a strike to the head. See what I mean? So the end result is the same. One's a claw, one's a punch, but they're both attacking the head. You got one with gloves off. This is with gloves on. No different.
Oh, okay. What is your own philosophy on Kung Fu and on life?
I'm sort of like, when one of the problems I had, I'll answer it this way. One of the problems I had sparring with, sometimes I would start too slow, but that was because I wanted you to open up and attack. I'm still defensive oriented when I fight, when I spar. I can attack when I want to. I'm better now at attacking, like, if I have to go after somebody. But normally, I'll let you go. I'll let you open up. Because I know that with your hands up, and I know you can just see my hands. So you can't hit me and stay in this position. You can't. Something's got to go. Left hand, right hand, something's got to go. And so once you open up, now I got you. So now, if I want to open up, I'll try to lead with something else. I'll use something more of as a distraction, or to see what type of reaction I get out of you. If you just do a quick parry and you don't do anything else, then the next thing I'll throw the same technique, but then I'll throw something else right behind it. It may be a low technique because now I got you focused one way, and now I go another way. So life is kind of like, my philosophy on life, I guess, would be kind of like that, because people they people are funny. They say they want certain things done, but they don't want you to do them. And I'm like, okay, well then you do it. Oh, I don't want to do it. Okay, you don't want to do it, but you don't want me to do it. And that was one of the reasons I wrote the book, because it had to get done. We've been talking about a book for years and years and years, and no one's ever done it. When I was in Hong Kong in 2009, and I met with the sons of Holap Man. Holap Man was Chen Man Chong Sihing in the Jiao Ga. They both learned on the Jiao Biu. Well, Holap Man has 5 sons, and they're known as the Ho brothers in Hong Kong. So when I met them, a couple of brothers speak really good English, because Hong Kong was a British colony for 99 years. And so when I told him I was working on a book and I was just about to finish it, and he told me, thank you so much. He said, we've been trying to do a book over here for years, and we just can't get our act together because everybody wants their version of stuff in, And so he said, I'm just glad to see it out. I'm actually going to send a package over the first book. They actually have a copy of the second book that I sent over there about a year or so ago. But you just got to do it, man. You got to do it, and just hope for the best. But as long as you're doing what you know is the right thing, you don't have anything to worry about. You can't, and it's hard for us because we're as humans, we're emotional creatures. We're emotional. We don't want to be. Nobody wants to get slammed. No one wants to get talked negatively about. We all want to be praised. But a lot of times, the things you do, it just ain't going to garner that praise. And it's as hard as it is for us to accept that truth. That's a very real truth. So you got to say to yourself, you know what? I know what I'm doing is right. I'm not breaking the law. I'm not causing problems. I'm not causing drama. And I tell people, look, I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't do drugs. I don't run the street. I don't gamble. Nothing. I do exactly what I'm supposed to do when I'm supposed to do it. So if someone's upset, and matter of fact, a guy who was a student yesterday I met of Chuck Yun, who teaches Jiaoga in New York, and I believe Yun Sifu's Jiaoga comes. I think I know they're under the Jiao Biao lineage, but I think they're through Vietnam. So his Jiaoga looks a little different, and that's fine. And but he said he told me, he said, man, he said, I'm glad you did that. I'm glad you did the books. I'm glad you really got out there and pushed. He said, because we need this, and it's for anybody and everybody. So you just got to go forward. You just got to go forward. And the things people say, they're going to sting and they're going to hurt. I mean, that's just the reality. But and I tell people it's okay to complain and vent for a while, but you can't do it all the time. Now, if you're going to complain and vent, I'm gonna let you go, and then we're going to get some work done. But if you're going to keep complaining and venting, we can't get anything done. That's wasted energy. So you can always put it to better use.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, too many people complain, but they don't do anything about it. It's not trying to be mean. It's just trying to say, like, we're if you want to live, because for me, I'm trying to promote a life that we can live a better life. Like because I listen to like Kung Fu could be anything. It's just not an aspect of martial arts. Because I read it in the Bruce Lee philosophy. Was there any struggle and fear when you start learning Kung Fu or Chaoga?
Yeah, I mean, not initially. There's struggle. You don't see it at first, but later on you see it. And one of the things I always admired about my Sifu, Dean Chen, and Chin Yok Din is his proper name. He was open. He was really open. He was a lot of ways like Bruce Lee, ahead of his time, ahead of the game. But Sifu said, there's, just because someone's Chinese doesn't mean they're good at Kung Fu. It just means they're Chinese. He's like, you can be as good as someone Chinese if you want. All you gotta do is practice. He said, all you have to do is practice. And his cousin, who's my uncle now, and as far as martial arts uncles, Kenny Chin, who I saw yesterday also. Kenny's proper name is Chin Kwok Chi. And he's actually a Chole Phut man. But he and Sifu grew up together in Hong Kong. They lived in the same building, 2 floors from each other, on the Kowloon side. He actually was in Sifu's wedding, when he moved over here, and Sifu got married at that time in the 70s. But he said the same thing. He said it's all about putting in work. He says he has Chinese students that feel like because they're Chinese that they should be able to get this or that and this or that. And he told them no. He said, this guy's better than you, so I'm promoting him over you. What are you kidding? He's like, because, and it's funny because now in this country, I get it. In Kung Fu Tai Chi magazine back in '97, on the problem of the race problem within the Chinese martial arts. But I there's a reason for it, and I get it. And it all stems back to the railroads in the 1800s. And the first generation Chinese that settled, most of them settled in California, San Francisco area, to work the railroads, the Trans-Pacific Railroad. And so, you have these group of men that are being oppressed. Well, if you're oppressed, why would I teach you as my oppressor my art so you can what, kill me? That doesn't mean, they have documented, they have documentation or articles written in the newspapers of Chinese migrants, uprising, fighting against, cowboys, essentially using these ancient techniques and stuff like that. Well, that was Kung Fu, obviously. We don't know what system it was, but it was Kung Fu. So now you have, Chinese, and, they're not really accepted here, and they've been segregated by society. And so they live in these, they build their own community, which is Chinatowns, as we know them now. And they get to speak their own language, eat their own food, be around their own culture, and they know that outside of that are a group of people that don't really accept them, don't really like them, don't really trust them. So why would you teach those people your art? So I totally get it. I get it. Unfortunately, a lot of that mindset, that old mindset, is still here, because in Hong Kong it's completely different. When I went to Hong Kong, when I went to China, both times in 04 as a member of the U.S. team, and then 09 to compete. Because actually in 09 we went to visit and compete. They're just happy that that you're keeping their art form alive, that you're keeping a part of their culture alive. And that's the thing that a lot of Asian masters, and I'll say Chinese masters, because the Japanese and Korean teachers really don't have, they have their own problems, but not to the degree that we have in the Chinese martial art community with Chinese masters and non-Chinese masters. Believe me when I tell you, you have African American, Latino American, Caucasian American, they've been doing this stuff 10, 15, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. If we didn't have a reverence for it, we wouldn't do it. Yes, there's a language barrier, and a lot of us now speak the language. You have a lot of teachers that speak Mandarin. You have, some that speak Cantonese. Like, matter of fact, do you know Chen Tai-san, the late Chen Tai-san?
Mm.
Chen Tai-san was a Chole Phut teacher in New York. He taught Chole Phut and Lama Pai, and his Chole Phut is actually mixed with his Lama. He learned a lot of stuff. Chen Tai-san was basically a legend. He actually used Kung Fu, hand-to-hand combat in World War II against the Japanese.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah, Chen Tai-san was a legend. I didn't know a lot of this stuff about him until after he died. I knew he had a rep, but I didn't know what. Bare hand, like using techniques and killing Japanese soldiers.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know. So all his first generation students, Steve Ventura, Gus Campos, David Ross, all speak Cantonese. All of them.
Really?
At that time, when he came here, his thing was, listen, in essence, I'm paraphrasing. Listen, I'm too old to learn to speak English. You want to learn my art, you learn my language. So all of his first generation students all speak Cantonese. I just saw Steve Ventura at the Quotient tournament here in Maryland, and I asked him, I said, how much I said, you still speak? He said, yeah, I still speak. I said, so you speak, read, and write? He said, no, I can speak and read it. But his training brother, David Ross, can speak, read, and write.
Oh, wow.
One of my Sihings has a student named Jeff Welsh, who moved to Hong Kong to learn Jiao Ga. He learned here, moved to Hong Kong, been living there for about 20 years. There's a Sifu over there now. This is a tall, this is a 6'3" white boy, skinny, blonde hair. Can now speak, read, and write Chinese. His Cantonese is so good, it's insane. And I've stood there in 09 when we met, because and he's from DC. So I stood with Jeff, and they would just call him over to translate, and he would go and speak. And I was like, oh my God. If you weren't looking at him, you'd swear he was Chinese.
Wait, do you understand what he's saying? Like, do you learn like Mandarin or Cantonese?
Most of the Cantonese I learned is, the bulk of it is Kung Fu jargon. I can say hi, I can say goodbye, I can say, hello, I can ask for a doctor, I can say I want to buy something, or I don't want to buy something. That's about the extent of it. I can say I'm sorry, I can say you're welcome, I can say thank you, no. yes, stuff like that. I would like to learn more. I actually was learning from Raymond Wong's mother for a little bit back in the 80s. So because their family's from Toisan,
Ah, and would you say that learning language is harder than learning kung fu, or which is it?
Yeah, learning the language is hard. Now, and it's funny you make that mention. Tai Chi, Tai Chi Chuan or Tai Kickun is the only system of Chinese martial arts that has retained, for a long time. Now the other systems are sort of catching up. They've retained all of the classical names of their movements, and they've been passed down. And the reason for that is, we're talking about learning another art form, which is, we're dealing with the Chinese culture. So you have this physical element that's already hard enough to get, and then you add a language component. That kind of turns a lot of people off. So, they would say, okay, like when I was learning, I didn't get all the proper names of the techniques. I got the technique, but I didn't get all the proper names. I mean, I'm just, some stuff I got, but most of it I didn't. I started getting the proper name of techniques, one through reading various books, like Wong Sifu's book on Chole Fut. We shared, like I said, we shared the same punches. So I got, okay, well, we do the same punches. So this is Sao Choi, Pao Choi, Cup Choi, Bill Choi. Okay, I got that from Dr. Wong's book. Okay, Ping Choi, reverse punch. I got this from this book. So you start to, pick up a little bit here and a little bit there. And then, you meet people and they tell you, oh, this is called this. Your training brothers get this. They share that with you. Like, oh, okay, now I know what this is. We didn't get this technique as tiger catches a lamb. We got it as tiger claw, or double tiger. We didn't get those names. We didn't get, you do a single tiger claw going forward. You didn't get, Fu Jiao Jump Dong, single tiger exits the cave. We didn't get that. We got walk, step forward, tiger cat stance. That's what we got.
Yeah, that's true. That's true for foot system where they do the tiger claw. We just say tiger claw. Oh, what is the yell? Like, why do we yell in kung fu? That's what I want to know.
A lot of the southern systems yell for stimulation of certain organs. So I'll use the Honga system as an example. In the Honga system, a lot of the yells are to stimulate the heart, the lung, the kidney, liver, spleen, the major organs of the body, help bring energy to those organs. So when you look at a form like Titsinkin, Honga, their last form, iron wire fist, where it's all dynamic tension, it's all Heigong. And there's certain yells that correspond with certain maneuvers, and those yells correspond to certain organs. Now with Chole Fut, a lot of the yells that you would hear, which are the same yells we do, hey, wah, dick, sick, yeah. Those yells, according to Chole Fut history, were old battlefield cries. And the premise was, if you were fighting in a large battle, so let's say, remember during the turn of the last 2 centuries, from the 19th to the 20th, okay, you would have the Boxers' Rebellion was probably the most famous. But let's say before that, when you were fighting, during after the burning of the Shaolin Temple, and you had all these societies, you had like the Heaven and Earth Society, something, things like that. And so, but you had affiliate groups of those societies, like smaller societies. Well, if you're in a big fight with a lot of people, if you heard someone throw a punch and you heard sick, that might be someone that you're connected with. So there's a friendly, there's an ally somewhere in here. So a lot of those were old battlefield cries to let people know, I'm with this group or I'm with that group.
Oh, okay. I would like to ask. I know this has nothing to do with Chao Ga a little bit. What is have you watched The Birth of the Dragon?
The most recent film with Philip Ng?
Well, I don't know what's it called, but it's with Bruce Lee, the new one. Have you watched it?
Yeah, where he's supposed to fight Wong Jack Man.
Yeah, how did you think about it? Because I just finished watching it. What did you think of it?
I will be absolutely honest. I actually sort of met Philip Ng a couple of years ago. Here in DC, the Smithsonian Institute does a Made in Hong Kong film festival. So the year, 2 years after my book came out, my first book came out in 2012. So in 2014, I went down to the Smithsonian Film Festival because I heard Phil Ng was doing, they were screening Once Upon a Time in Shanghai. And I don't know, have you seen that film with Phil Ng? It's
No.
it's more modern. It's set in like early 1920s, like just prior to World War II. But it's a really good film. And he's the main star in that movie. So I went down to see it, but he was supposed to be also doing an interview. And so I said, oh, I get a chance to meet Philip Ng. I'll take him a copy of my book and autograph it and give it to him as a gift. And so when they did the interview Skype. And I was like, oh my God. So because he was in Hong Kong. And so I'm like, okay, now what do I do? So long story short, I did get him the book, but I really liked that movie. Now, with Birth of the Dragon, I just can't do it. And it's no disrespect to Philip Ng. I think he's a really good actor. I think it's Charlie, and Philip Ng, does Charlie Flood and Wing Chun.
Oh, really?
From his father.
Oh.
Yeah, Philip Ng's from Chicago. Philip Ng's from here in the States in Chicago. He moved to Hong Kong to do films. The Ng family, Charlie Flood, they've been there for years. So when you look at Once Upon a Time in Shanghai, he demos brilliantly, goes from Charlie Flood to Wing Chun. And it's believable. It's really, it's practical the way they set it up. It's like, okay, I can see that working. But I couldn't bring myself to watch it. And I said it on Facebook. I just couldn't bring myself to watch it because if the story had been more accurate, I would have gone. I would have gone to see it. They took creative license with an event that actually happened. And the problem is there are people that are around that remember everything that happened. Even Linda, Bruce's widow, Linda Lee Caldwell, remembers exactly what happened. She said, I was 6 months pregnant with Brandon. She said, he came up, they had a fight. He and Wong Jack Man fought. He got him on the ground. They fought for about 3 minutes. He got him on the ground and said, do you give up? And Wong Jack Man said, I give up. And that was it. He said, but Linda was like, I was right there. I was pregnant with our son. I was standing right there and watched them fight. So to take a story that famous of the most, hands down, the most famous martial artist in the latter half of the 20th century and into the 21st century, because nobody's more famous than Bruce. Nobody. I mean, we've got really good martial artists, but I'm sorry, Bruce Lee sets the standard, and I agree, and I agree with Sifu Carl Albright, who does Seven Star Praying Mantis and Wing Chun, or in Hong Kong, excuse me. If I was a Wing Chun practitioner, I would ride that Bruce Lee gravy train to the bank. I would. I get it. I'm not mad at anybody that does Wing Chun that's riding off Bruce. I get it. I totally get it. I would ride off of that, off the Ip Man series. I would do it. I would do it. Especially if I'm making, teaching for a living. But I just couldn't bring myself to watch that movie as much as I like Philip Ng because the story is not accurate. Even if they augmented it a little bit, I would say, okay, I get it. But one of the things in the movie is, and correct me if I'm wrong because you've seen it, there's because even Shannon, Bruce's daughter didn't like it. She hated it. She wouldn't see it because she's like, this is not accurate. Now you got the wife, who's the widow who's still alive, and the daughter that's still alive. They don't like it because both of them know this is not what took place. And even the storyline doesn't jive. I mean, now if you go by the original incident of what happened, they fight Bruce Lee and Wong Jack Man, who was a Northern Shaolin stylist under Ku Yu Chang, fight because Wong Jack Man and the powers that be at that time didn't like Bruce teaching non-Asians. So they wanted him to stop. He said no, and they said, well, you're going to have to fight for it if you want to teach. And that's what happened. Now, in the movie, you have, if I'm remembering the trailer, you have this Caucasian kid learning from Bruce. Know how they meet? He sees Bruce. I don't know. Did he see Bruce fight and they met, or how did they meet?
I watched it. It's wait, you talking about One Jack Man?
No, the kid, the white kid and Bruce Lee. They met because he was training with Bruce first, correct?
Yeah. He was training with Bruce. He was a Bruce Lee student.
Right. Okay.
And then after, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say you were right. There's some of the stuff that I seen in the new one I didn't really vibe with because I watched a version of, you heard of Dragon?
Yeah.
It's and I liked that one more because it was the story, because Linda, Bruce Lee's wife, provided all the details, and it's more accurate than this one. I couldn't wrap my hand around with the new one.
Yeah. So now you have this new one where you have this white guy who's learning from Bruce, and Bruce is teaching him, and then all of a sudden he wants to learn from Wong Jack Man.
Right.
Okay. Now, if we go by what was told, what was the original crux of the matter with the fight, if Wong Jack Man had a problem with Bruce teaching non-Asian students, why would he take a non-Asian student?
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So the accuracy is off. It doesn't jive. So yeah, Dragon, and even though Dragon is there's creative license there also, like with the whole thing about how he injured his back, which wasn't in a fight. He pinched the nerve lifting weights. He didn't warm up properly, and he pinched the nerve in his back. And even Linda said, yeah, he pinched the nerve in his back. It wasn't, but I get it. For dramatic effect, you got to do this, because having a fight and having a guy kick you in the back is much more dramatic than you lifting weights over your head and you go, oh, I hurt my back. But that's what it was. That's actually how he hurt his back. But I get it. But the taking of non-Asian students, here's the first original student, Jesse Glover, just died a few years ago. Matter of fact, he died about 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago. But he was Bruce's first student, and he's African American. And he died almost 3 years ago. He died in like early 2015, I believe. And I was working on a project that I wanted to include him in. And just as I have a training brother that teaches Jiaoga in Sacramento, and he was just about to put me in touch with a student of Jesse Glover. And Jesse was about to put me in touch with this guy. Jesse Glover died. I was like, oh my God. I couldn't believe it.
It hurt you, didn't it?
Oh my God. But this is, because he was starting to get out. He had been sort of a recluse. He was starting to get out more, and teach what Bruce originally taught him, stuff like that. He never stopped practicing. He never stopped training, from what I understand. And he had students, but not a commercial school. He ran sort of a, come to my house type of thing, I guess, out of his garage, or out of his house, or out of his basement. But he was still teaching. He was actively teaching.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much for that. What is your passion in life? Is it Kung Fu, or is there any other passion that you have?
My kids, my fiance, who was a wonderful, who was a godsend. I tell you, she is a godsend. And just the best partner I could have, especially in what I do. When she and I met, I told her, we met through the gym, and we fell in love and started dating, fell in love. But I told her, I'm broke with talent. and it's funny because she looked me up and online, and I, like I said, I'm just not new to getting online with everybody. And the first date we went on, she says, you've done a lot of stuff. And I knew people had been writing about me online. I had no website, no Facebook page, no nothing. So I knew everything that was out there, people were writing about me. And I didn't follow because I was like, I got other things to do. Um, but she said, "You done a lot of stuff," and I said, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, I'm done pretty good for myself." And she says, "No, you've done a lot of stuff." Because when she said she saw all of what I had done, she's like, "Oh my God, this guy's the real deal. He's a serious martial artist." And I just had signed my contract with Tuttle Publishing for the first book. I just signed it. And she said, if he could do all this stuff by himself, no computer, no internet. I mean, I literally hand wrote my book on a legal pad.
Really? Oh wow.
Yeah. I literally hand wrote my book. The guy that assisted me in techniques, his name is Henry Shum. And Henry Shum does Chen style Tai Chi with Stefan Berwick. Stefan Berwick is the senior student of Ren Guanyi, and Ren Guanyi is Chen Xiaowang's #1 student. You know, and so Henry gave me a laptop. We were going to start printing it out, and he gave me an old laptop that he was going to donate to the library. And he said, "Ron, you're more in need of a laptop than anybody I know." So he gives me the laptop, and I'm typing on the computer and typing on the laptop. Has no internet connection, but I can save stuff on it and put it on a thumb drive or whatever. And at one point it crashed and half the book was still on it. And my cousin, who worked for computers for a living, I took it to his job. He got one of his colleagues to get all that information off and put it on the thumb drive. So I then spent the next, and I type faster than I do five or so years ago, but I literally went to the public library and typed every day for at least an hour to 2 hours a day to finish that book.
How you feel? Oh, sorry about it. Go ahead.
No, that was it.
How you feel being an author?
It's nice. I mean, it's you know, it's funny. I tell my fiance, I always wanted to be known for doing martial arts. Now, I didn't know how known I wanted to be, but I wanted to like win a few championships, maybe win a title, so maybe do some acting. I don't know, but I wanted to be known for doing martial arts and make my living doing martial arts and such. Competitive, because it's all I had. And again, I'm just now getting caught up with the internet and the 21st century. But she saw that I did it. I basically did it the old-fashioned way. I built my reputation on the tournament circuit. I did forums. I did it all. Forums, weapons, fight. I built my reputation up. Through the 80s, doing the open tournament circuit. I did a little bit of full contact. It wasn't, and I loved it. I loved the full contact, but it wasn't organized like it is now. So I was, you hear about an event and then it would get canceled because they didn't have enough competitors, or the venue, they couldn't get the venue locked in. I'm like, oh, what? I'm doing all this training. What am I going to do? And so I did the continuous contact, but I was doing full contact and I was boxing at the same time.
Oh,
between 1991 and 1994, for 4 straight years, I trained pretty much 6 days a week, anywhere between 4 to 6 hours a day. And that's all I did. Like for a normal teaching week for me back in the 90s was I go to the recreation center in my neighborhood, and there was a boxing team there. And I was teaching there, but I asked the coach, could I work out with his team? He said, yeah, no problem. So now I would box from 5 to 7, so that's 2 hours. Then teach Kung Fu, teach Jiao Gao from 7 to 9, right? I wasn't married at the time. Then go home, eat, check on my mom, see how she's doing, and then work out again from let's say 11 o'clock until 12:30. And while I was let's say doing, crunches or ab work or whatever, doing the conditioning, throw in, in the VCRs, throw a tape in the VCR and watch fight after fight after fight, boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, whatever I could get my hands on. I'm seeing, his name is Taran Breithaupt. Breihaupt's been in the system since 1973. And he would make me, and he was one of the senior fighting instructors in the school when I got there when Sifu Chin was still living. And so Bright would make me videotape. He'd just make me these videotapes, different fights. And I would just study and watch. And I would watch not so much what the person did right, but what the person did wrong. Because everything happens for a reason. You know, people get knocked out for a reason. People get hit for a reason. Hands down, chin up, didn't measure the distance right. You know, didn't cover this right. There's all kind of reasons. So I did all that. So you know, it was all I had. My body and my knowledge and my skill was all I had. So I went out and I earned my reputation the hard way. You know, I went out and compete. You know, as far as being an author, tacking on, then I started writing and got the writing bug with Kung Fu, you know, Kung Fu Tai Chi magazine, and then the book thing and videos and stuff. So it's been nice to get out there and really represent the system. You know, I hope that people appreciate what I've been trying to do to represent the system. Because sometimes, you know, there's times when I'm wondering if I'm even making a difference or if I'm making a dent.
I didn't know that. So that's
yeah. I mean, do you know Bobby Samuels, Robert Samuels? You know Sammo Hung?
Yeah.
Okay, so Sammo Hung had a protege named Robert Samuels, African American. I just saw him yesterday, but I met him formally a few years ago. And Bobby Samuels is the only African American inducted into the Hong Kong Stuntmen's Association.
Really?
Yeah, he's the only one. He worked for Sammo Hung for about 10 years. You know, lived in Hong Kong, speaks Cantonese. You know, really good guy. But I met him through Vincent Lin, who also, you know the movie Operation Condor with Jackie Chan?
Yeah, he had people.
Yeah, remember he does a fight scene in a wind tunnel.
Okay, yeah. With the where they were carrying gold, right?
Yeah. The guy he's fighting with is Vincent Lin. So Vincent Lin is famous for that scene with Jackie. He's also done movies. So Vincent said, "Yo, you should talk to Bobby Samuels." On my 49th birthday, I didn't tell anybody. You know, my fiance went with me here in Maryland. I went to the U.S. Capitol Classic tournament, Dennis Brown's tournament, and I've known Dennis for decades. And so I saw Bobby. I knew what he looked like, and I walked up to him. You know, as far as like making a dent. You know, sometimes I wonder. So I walk up to him and I said, you know, Bobby Samuels. I said, hey man, you know, Vincent Lim told me to come talk to you, and they know each other because they work together in Hong Kong. So he said, oh yeah, Vince, man, yeah, how's he doing? Good. And he says, what's your name? And I told him my name, and he pauses. He goes, Ron Wheeler. He says, from the Jiaoga? I said, yeah. He says, hey man, I've been wanting to meet you for years. I was like, you have? You know, I couldn't believe he knew who I was. I was like, what? You know, and then I met Bay Logan, who's the producer, one of the producers for Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon 1 and 2. He actually, you know, when Celestial bought all the Shaw Brothers films, the company Celestial.
I'm not much on, like, I stopped like watching all I'm not up to date as you are for martial arts, because I do personal development. I read because my passion is not just kung fu, right? And I read other what's it called, like, you know, marketing, business, and stuff like that. I mean, because yeah, sorry, but yeah, go ahead.
But if you Google Bay Logan, he's gonna pop up. So anyway, Bay Logan has been doing, you know, one, he's a producer. He's been doing Hongkong for like years. He speaks fluent Cantonese. He's from England originally. And so we met. I friended him on Facebook after my book came out. He didn't hit me back. I was like, oh, you know, no big deal. You know, I'm nobody who, you know, he gets hundreds of requests, I'm sure. A year after my book came out, he friend requested me. And I saw, like, who's this request from? And when I punched it, it said Bay Logan. So, of course, I accepted. And he ends up coming here. We get him to come here to do the Hong Kong Film Festival a year after I had seen Philip Ng. So in 2015, we did the Smithsonian Festival. It was myself, Bay Logan, Bobby Samuels, and Tari Cassell, who's also a legend in the game. And so I talked to Bay Logan. We finally, we're Facebooking, and finally I get a chance to talk to him because Hong Kong's like 12 hours ahead. And I finally get to talk to him, and I told him I wanted to send him a copy of my book, and he said, "Oh, I love an autographed copy. I actually bought it here in Hong Kong." And I'm like, "How did my book get there?" And I forgot, my book came out in the Asian market first before it hit the Europe market and then the American market.
Really?
Yeah. So that's the way Tuttle is set up. So when I talked to Bay Logan, here's an interesting fact. I said, "How did you get my book?" He said he was on the Kowloon side of Hong Kong. He went to a bookstore that Bruce Lee normally goes to when he was younger, when Bruce was alive. And he goes, and he sees the book. And he says, "Oh, a book on Zhao Ga." And he opens the book, and he says, "Oh my God, there's a brother in the book." And that's what he bought. So he found my book in the very same bookstore that Bruce Lee used to shop in Hong Kong. I know, right?
Throughout this whole talk, I realized you are having fun what you do, and you get to meet amazing people. And I was like, you seem so happy, and you light up. I was like, wow, you really do light up when you meet people that you look up to or you enjoy. Like all the connection that you have. And yeah, I'm glad that you're enjoying it. Thank you for sharing that.
I'm enjoying. I wish I was making a little more money though. I tried the commercial school route. I tried to like build students and then get enough student body where I could go into a building. It didn't work. But I tell people my dedication to the system is not predicated upon you being here. Meaning, if you want to learn from me, come on and learn, no problem. But if you're not here, I'm still going to keep going. So you could be here and not be here. Now, financially, that doesn't do well for my pocket, but it is what it is. But I can sleep good at night. We've all had issues from time to time, but I can honestly say, when it comes to martial arts, I got a clean conscience. I sleep good at night. I sleep good because I've never talked. If I got a problem with somebody, I'll just go to them and hash it out, stuff like that. But I've never talked about anybody, belittled anybody, talking negative. If I got a problem with people, I'll go to you and we can talk it out and hash it out and stuff. Or if we can't hash it out, you say, "You know what? Okay, I hear you. I'll stay on my side of the fence and you stay on your side of the fence. And
Right.
Never shall our paths cross again." But for the most part, I sleep good. I don't have a problem. And now, when I was younger and competing, I was very serious, and it was all out to competing. Gotta win. And most times I won. Sometimes I didn't, but most times I won. And then as I got older, by the time I hit my 30s, I guess I was sort of coming into my own at that point as a martial artist or as a person, and I was much more comfortable. So when I had a small team, and we went out from 97 until 2003, and we would go to tournaments. And I remember the first tournament we went to, which was the Great Lakes Kung Fu Championship in Cleveland, Ohio. It was April 97. And I remember we got there, and everybody's in a uniform, and we're registering. Everybody's in a uniform, and we had our uniforms custom made. We had and they were like, "Oh, should we change? Should we change?" And I'm like, "Sit down, relax, go smoke a cigarette or something, go get a beer, sit down, relax, take it easy, And they said, "Everybody's getting dressed. Will you sit down, man? Calm down. Get worked up for nothing. Just take it easy." Jesus Christ. Oh my God. And then people will be warming up and stuff, and I'm like, "Okay, go put your pants on and leave." But see, I know how tournaments work. You want to look nice when you do uniforms. Don't sweat your uniform out. And I'll tell them, just go put your pants on and leave that t-shirt on and come on back, man. And then I'll say, "Okay, now put your jacket on. Now put your satchel. Okay, now go." And it was the same in China. When I went to China the first time, me being in competition, and I knew how tournaments were in China, even though it was my first time. And I remember it's the only tournament I can actually say I've never competed that early in my life, ever. We had to be at the site at 7 a.m. 7
How
a.m.
was what was your tournament like for like below? You said that was the earliest. What's the latest for you for the tournament?
Oh, latest? Oh my God! I mean, the one drawback to Chinese tournaments a lot of times, especially now, they're notoriously late. They run late.
Oh,
They do. Just take a lesson from NASCAR. Take a lesson from the Open Tournament circuit. Just run your tournament. Don't worry about Masters demonstration, line dance all the time. Not every tournament has to have a line dance. Not every tournament has to have a Masters demo. Stop. Just let's go. Let's go. Matter of fact, I'll give you my best and worst experience because I competed this year, and I took students to compete. So within a week of each other, July 28th, August 5th, this year. Okay. July, we go to the Quoshu Federation tournament, Towson County, Maryland. We get there. I take my two students. We get there at 9 o'clock in the morning. Well, 9 o'clock. I get them registered. I'm not going to compete. I'm going to coach. We get them registered. It costs like $135 for them to register to compete. They're both going to do forms and fighting. We wait. They do the opening ceremony. Tournament starts about 10:30. Do the opening ceremony, a couple of demos. Okay. Let's move along. Let's move along. So they didn't do their first event. They only had to do two events. They didn't do their first event until 6:45 in the evening. We've been there since 9 o'clock in the morning. They didn't even get a chance to fight. They did not get a chance to fight. And so they were crazy. Right. And they were tired. And they looked at me and they said, "Sequel, can we fight in the Capital Classic?" I said, "Yeah, go fight in the Classic." Because it's basically the same thing. Very next week, okay, August 5th, in Maryland, again, now we're in PG County with the National Harbor, Dennis Brown's tournament. Okay. I go register myself that Friday. I got there, the National Harbor Friday. I get through training, teaching my class. I go register. I got there at 1 o'clock. I register. I'm doing two events. I'm just going to do two events. I made the finals 4 years in a row. I'm the only Jalgar person to make the finals 4 years in a row, and I'm the oldest to make it 4 years in a row. But anyway, so I register, and then I go in to the tournament site, to the floor, to the convention floor, talk to Dennis Brown, talk to. It's 1:45 in the afternoon. They've got 10 rings running already, 10, and they're full. All the kids, musical form, synchronized form. I'm like, what in the world? So I, took my phone out and videotaped and posted up on Facebook. We go the next day, Saturday. Now we all got to compete. They got to register, so on and so forth. We get there basically the same time, 9:15. They kick everybody out of the hall. They reopen the doors at 9:05. We go in. They start the first division 9:30. We started competing because it's myself and two students. We started competing at 11:30. If I had made the finals, and they placed, by the way. So one student is in the beginner. He got first and third. He got first in forms, third in sparring. My other student gets first in weapons, first in sparring, and second in forms. And I get two firsts. Now, if I hadn't got two firsts, which put me in the finals, let's say if I got 2 seconds. Now, I told you, we started competing at 11:30. We would have been done by 1 o'clock.
Oh, wow.
Walking out the door.
That's
I made the finals. I made the finals for forms and weapons, grand champion. I'm doing traditional against contemporary wushu, which I know which way this is going to go. But, I'm representing. I got to represent.
right.
Even though
I do have. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, to finish out, I made the finals. We finished. I didn't win. Okay, no problem. We're walking out the door at 4:30.
4:30.
4:30.
Wow. But you do love tournaments, right? Or
oh yeah, I love them. Absolutely. long term. Because you know where are you going to get a chance to test your skill? You know,
Mm,
you could be a big fish in a little pond and stay in the school and fight, you know, and beat everybody in the school. And people say, oh, you know, he's such a good fighter. Such a good fighter. Go out there and compete. Go out there and go against someone you don't know. And again, we're talking about in a semi-controlled environment because even though you have referees and judges, things can go wrong. People still get knocked out. You know, people still get jaws broken. It happens. You know, I mean, someone's kicking you in the face. I mean, it's going to hurt. You know, so the ref can't stop him kicking you in the face. That's up to you. You know, but if you want to test your skill, go compete. Don't tell me how good you are. Go compete. You know. Now, if tournaments are not for you, that's fine too. Because some people don't get into art for tournaments. They don't get into it. You know, it's more of a, you know, cultural development internally. And I totally get that and totally respect. Some of the best teachers I know don't compete, have never competed. And they're guys that I would not mess with. You know, I wouldn't, you know the phrase, I wouldn't go near them in a dark alley. I wouldn't mess with them on a light, on the clearest, sunniest day of the summer. I'm like, I don't want that problem. You know?
Before when we did this, not before, there was during the talk you said training. Can you give us tips how to do training a little bit better? What we can do, like shadow boxing forms, and how can we, like, do you ever get bored also when you train? Or
No, because you can, you know, I know we use the phrase master a lot, you know, but in reality, you know, what have you mastered? You can't master it. You can't. There's no such thing as mastery. There's basics performed at a high level. A punch is a punch, a kick is a kick. The only difference is time and experience. And that's why we say experience is the greatest teacher. The more time you put in, the more experience you have, the better you're going to be. You know, and that's what it is. And I'll quote the actor Chen Kwon-tai from one of the old Shaw Brothers movies, Challenge of the Masters. And he tells us, Gordon Liu, he says, when you first start learning Kung Fu, he says, after 2 years, you start to think, I'm pretty good. He said, but then after 20 years, you realize I'm not that good. So you just keep training to be good.
right, and also like I think that I feel like sometimes students get caught up with the sash because I kind of listen to Bruce Lee where or Brendan Lee or whatever they say like it's only good for a hold of your pants. I know it's gonna offend a lot of people, but what do you think about that?
Well, traditionally Chinese martial arts was like every other art. There was no sash or belt ranking. What we know as sash ranking or belt ranking, and I'll start with belt. Excuse me, came from Hiro Akano, the founder of judo, and he believed. Now he was smart. He was smart because he realized that people are inherently dumb, and they need something tangible to see and touch in order to grade where they are. So that's why he came up with the belt, an actual belt rank system. So you go from white belt to yellow belt and so on and so forth to black. But though to get to those levels still took from white belt to black belt anywhere from 10 to 15 years at a minimum. So people were willing to dedicate. Now it's a business. And so that's why you see, in Taekwondo, they make more money than anybody. They do. And they got the kid niche locked up. I mean, they figured it out. But it used to be you get a white belt and then you get a yellow belt. Now you see, I've heard people say, yeah, my son's a third degree white belt. I'm like, what? A third degree? What's that? Well, he's got, he's third. And I tell him, there's no such thing. No, in this school, what? Or third degree yellow belt. I've heard it all. And what it is it's a way to make more money. It's a revenue stream.
Right.
But they know. Now they're still going to teach the material, but they know that people need to feel and touch something. You just telling them you're getting better. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. I need to feel it. I need to see it. I need to wear it. so I can have something to show. That's what it is. I talked to so the sash ranking system, that Kung Fu has adopted from the belt rank system. I get it. I totally get it and understand it. Now, as long as you're not teaching garbage, and a lot of people have cut their curriculum also. Back in the old days, you had to learn almost everything, to be an instructor, to be a Sifu. Now people limit what you have to learn. So they'll say, I'll use my system as an example. So they'll say, okay, to get to black sash, black belt, you have to learn these 6 forms to get to black sash. And then everything else is extra if you want it. So they'll say something like, let's say you have to learn punching for like beginner level. You have to learn the punching form, the stepping form, small tiger. Okay, that's beginner level. Okay, intermediate, you have to learn double-headed staff, flower fist, and spear. Okay, that's intermediate. Advanced, you have to learn big tiger and broadsword. Okay, now you got to test all those to get your black sash. You test.
How do you guys? Sorry, go ahead. I was gonna ask you, how do you guys do the testing? Because I remember Hong Fa, they when they call it first form, they test it for timing. You guys do that, and the second one, I remember when I was testing for to get on the staff, it was for just they put me on a horse stance really low, and they put me on the broadsword. Do you guys do any type of that like that?
Yeah, we don't test for time. But again, that's but that's a more modern thing because everybody's speed is going to be different. Especially when you're just starting out. Depending on the length of your limbs, how tall you are, how short you are, everybody's speed is going to be different. That's not to say that someone heavy can't move fast or that someone little is going to move, slow, and someone little is going to move fast. I've seen people who are small that can't move that fast. I've seen big people who move quick. So that to me is not a great marker. I get it though. I mean that's the way it's set up.
Right. Yeah. That's how. Yeah. Right. Go ahead.
So I'm not going to criticize it. That's how you set your school up is how you set your school up.
Right. How's the way that you guys test?
The way we used to test in the old days when I was coming up, you had to test for every single form and then level. So many forms per level. But to get to advanced, to get down to the instructor level, you were going to be in the school at least a good 7 years.
Oh, wow.
Easy. 7, 8 years, easy. And then to get to Sifu level, you had to do everything, every single form, every single weapon, every 2-man set, and spar, and do line dance. You had to do it all, And Sifu, would fail you. They had no. See, you can't do that these days and run a commercial school. People paying $150 a month. They're buying the uniform. They're buying the equipment, the sparring gear, the bag, the patch, the T-shirt,
the weapons.
Weapons. People shelling out, a couple of grand a year for little Timmy to learn. Well, guess what? If you're running a commercial school and that's how you make your living, you're not failing Timmy. You're going to make sure Timmy passes. You're going to do everything in your power to make sure Timmy passes. Because you know what happens if Timmy doesn't pass? Timmy's parents pull Timmy out of your school. And that revenue stops. But Sifu back in the day, there was a guy, I remember my Singing told me, Briham, he told me the guy was testing for small tiger. He did the form perfect. Did it perfect, no problem. Sifu said, okay, give me 5 applications, meaning 5 techniques. Show him the techniques, how the form's applied. And the guy couldn't do it. And Sifu said, wait a second, hold it. You did the form right. Now just show me an application. Because what they would do is they give you a partner. So like when I tested for small tiger. You do the form. First they check your stance. You sit in the stance for at least 3 minutes. Could be longer, but at least 3. So you have to sit in your horse, basic forms, basic punches, basic kicks, stuff like that. Then do the form. Then application. So they give you a partner and say, okay, they say, okay, tell them what you wanted to do. and apply the technique and tell us how you're going to do it, how it's applied. So you say, okay, I'll just say, you know, like one of my training brothers named Chris. I'll just use him as an example. I would say, Chris, give me, now you got to remember, it's up to you to make you look good. So you got to know what you're doing. So you say, I would say like, Chris, give me a left foot forward fighting stance. He gets a fighting stance, left foot forward. So I'll say, give me a left punch. And he punch. So I block, and then I might grab and then pull and punch. You know, something like that. And then I have to explain it. You know, and he says, he's giving me a left punch. I'm going to use the hook. In those days, we say, you know, the hooking block, because I didn't have the name of the technique. Hooking block. Then I'm going to grab his hand and pull and punch, which is I'm taking it from this point, but I'm using this part here, and then the pull at the end of it and the punch. And they'd be like, okay. And then they grade you. You know, and then they might say, give me another application using the same technique from another punch, like a hook punch. I said, okay. So, you know, they'll tell you, you know, but there's one guy, he just couldn't get the techniques. So Sifu failed him. He said, you know the form, but you can't apply it. I can't pass you. I'm sorry. You got to take your test again. The guy left the school. Oh, okay. You know,
Oh, wow.
It doesn't happen these days. You know, people can't fail. My fiance is very quick to tell you, you know, I don't give compliments easy. You know, now I don't crap on people, but you know, when people, and I do a lot of personal training and boxing and kickboxing, you know, and I only have I have 4 students that I teach Jiao Gao to, only 4 right now. And I tell them, I'm like, I'm not running a commercial school. I'm not going to move you on until I'm satisfied that you're doing this right. So if you can handle that, you can come learn with me. If not, I'm like, there's a lovely karate school around the corner, go there. I'm like, I'm not going to do it because you're representing the system. And I need the system to be done properly because it's not only my reputation, it's all my instructors and my Sifu and, you know, everybody else that has come before us to represent Jiao Gao. I want the system to work. I want them to say, you know, I learned Jiao Gao from with, oh, okay. You know, I know your stuff should be tight. So I'm like, you're going to get out, you know, and again, I don't make them compete. I'm like, they say, oh, see if I was thinking about competing. Are you sure about that? You know, I'm like, because if you think I'm a pain now, I'm going to be more of a pain when you get ready for tournament, you know, and they're all at the stage where I just go, the only phrase comes out of my mouth is, they look good. And I say, oh, yeah, now you're getting it. I was like, oh, okay, now you look like a Jiao Gao man. And I was like, and I told him, you know, and I poked fun with him. I said, I don't know what that stuff you were doing before was, oh, white crane, whatever that stuff is, you know, but and they always hear, and then they hear this, do it again, do it again, do it again, start over, do it again, start over, do it again, more power, more speed, do it again, do it again. I mean, they're bending over, huffing and puffing. I'm like, stand up and breathe, stand up and breathe. You want to learn Kung Fu? Now the real training begins. Do it again. Sit in our horse stance. Don't move. You know, lock that leg. You know, I'm old school. I'll stand on their legs, bounce up and down on their legs. You know, I'm like, you know, do iron body training. You know, hold that stance. Punch them in the body conditioning. I'm like, what do you think is gonna happen? You get in a fight. You think somebody's gonna hit you? You gotta be ready. You know, and so Scott, one of my students, Scott, when we went to the Capital Classic, and I was running my weapons division at the same time, so I didn't get a chance to see him fight. And after I finished, I was like, he hasn't come back. Let me go over to the ring and see what's going on. And he's walking toward me. And I said, this is his second tournament, but his first time fighting. And he was doing intermediate because I was like, there's no way you're going beginner. You're way too good for a beginner. Do intermediate. So he was going against, you know, blue belts and, you know, green and blue belts and stuff. And sees it, you know, guys are on, you know, point karate teams and such. And he comes walking toward me. And I said, so what happened? He said, I won. I said, you won what? He said, I won the division. You did? I mean, 5-foot trophy. He walks away. His second tournament, he walks away with 2 5-foot trophies. Do you know how long it took me to get a 5-footer?
How long did it take you to take?
I didn't get my 5-footer until 2014. I didn't get
Oh
to
wow.
2014, and Dennis
That's
Brown
amazing.
tournament. You know,
Oh wow.
yeah. I mean,
Uh,
but I do. I enjoy myself. I really do,
mm,
because I'm not
yeah.
trying to. It. I have met along the way. I've met some teachers that were, jerks. I met some teachers that were jerks. People. One teacher, he's passed away. I don't want to mention his name because I still admire the guy because his kung fu was really good. Um, and he came here, and I wanted to I address him and stuff, and he kind of like and turned like walked away from me. I was like, oh, he's a jerk. you know? And I bowed. I said, and I've met a couple others like that, And I said to myself, if you ever get to that level, treat everybody with respect, even especially beginners, because beginners are very impressionable. They're coming into the art. They're trying to learn, and if you talk to them like now, they know their place. They know they're beginners, and they know who you are. That's why they come up and giving you compliments or whatever. But if you talk to them like, yeah, whatever, yeah, appreciate it. One, you just give them a bad impression. Whatever positive view they had of you is completely gone now. So why do that? If some beginner comes up and says to me, oh, Seafood Wiz, I really like it. Hey man, thank you. I mean, it's that's nice. They're taking the time out to say thank you for whatever you've done to contribute, and they admire what you do, and they want to follow in some way, shape, or form your footsteps. Maybe not exactly, but promoting their art, they may want to be a good tournament competitor, or be a writer, or do articles, or be a researcher. Whatever. Or however long they decide to stay with the art. But to give them a negative impression because you think you're up here and they're down there, I mean, that's just wrong. And so I never wanted to do that. So I'm exceedingly comfortable with myself, especially as I get older. I mean, I like the rank of Sifu. I appreciate it. But I don't think I'm up here. I'm still learning. I'm still practicing. I'm still training. I'm still working. And while I have a few students, when I didn't have any students, I was still doing. I was still out there hustling. So it didn't matter to me. But I tell people, but if you come to me, this is what it is. This is how you're getting trained. Now, if you can deal with that, you're good to go. I got you covered. But if you can't, I hear you. I'm not, I'm not for everybody. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I try not to be a pain in the ass, but if I'm training you and you're not practicing properly, I'm going to be upset. And when I was doing personal training just in fitness, matter of fact, I did it twice. I've done it twice. Once as a trainer, once as an instructor. But I had people that I was training that they felt like I wasn't giving what they wanted, or they were, having it. And I gave them their money back and said, bye.
Really?
Yeah. I'm like, you're asking me to train you. You haven't bought me. I'm not a commodity to be bought. You're asking for lessons, and so, but if you get an attitude with me, I got to drop you as a client or a student. I'm not going to have it. I'm too old for that, man. I really am. It's not if I'm treating you with respect, you should give me respect. But if you think that you paying me gives you the right to belittle me in some fashion, or expect something from me because you're paying me a certain amount of money, I'm like, that ain't happening. So sorry, but it is what it is.
And
But I've done it twice. Matter of fact, I take that back. I've done it 3 times. 3 times. And I'm like, not worth it. Not worth the headache.
and
Have a nice day. Good luck in life. See you later.
and thank you so much for being so humble. a lot of people, like when they get up there, they're not really that humble. Because I get but oh yeah, I forgot to say thank you so much for doing this interview. I'm very grateful to you. You know why?
So
Because
thank you for asking. Thank you for asking.
thank you. I have this. It's like you said. Like I hear what you're saying, that you like respect. You know, and I had this. I don't want to mention name, but I had this author that I read the book and I wanted to promote, just like your book. I want to promote, and I believe the message. But and I asked for like an interview, and the person said it's busy. I understand that, but if I really believe in what you do, I'm gonna persist, right? So I asked what happened is the person blocked me, and I said, whoa, that's not okay. You're a public figure, you're a CEO, you're a best-selling author. Why would you do that? You know? And I'm thank you, grateful for you for like that. You know,
No,
I
I mean,
had
thank you for asking. Like I said, sometimes when I saw your message, and I was like, wow, someone actually wants to interview me. I mean, it's just funny to me because and on my book, I was like, holy crap, someone picked it up. you know, I mean, like I said, so I'm appreciative, but you know, it, people, I don't know. I mean, it's amazing that in this day and age, everybody thinks, like I said, like we both said, they think they're up here. I'm like, just treat people, it's the old saying, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. If you want to treat you with respect, treat them with respect first. Now, if you're giving respect and none comes back, if you want to try to give it a couple more times and none comes back, then you have to kind of make a decision. Do I want to keep trying to give this person respect? Sometimes the respect is phony though. And what I mean by that is when I just, before we end this real quick, as I was writing the book, now I went through a really turbulent time in my life. My mother just died. I just got divorced, lost my family home, and I still kept writing this book. I swear to God, Every single woman I dated at that time was like, oh, I believe in you. I want to back you. I want to help you. I'm like, okay. And it never happened. It never happened. And it's like, wait a minute, what happened to the believing in me and showing me some support here, And they're like, well, I mean, the words. I remember one time I had to meet with my photographer for the first book to go over some stuff. We were finishing it out, and the woman I was dating at the time, and I told her 3 weeks out. I told her 2 weeks out. I told her the week of, and the day before, she wanted to know if I was coming over for dinner, and I was like, "What is wrong with you?" I'm like, I told you I got to meet with my photographer. His name is Moshe Zussman. So shout out to Moshe Zussman Photography. Great photographer. So any of you guys looking to do a martial art book, he is your guy. Now he's here in DC, but he is your guy. And it's Moshe Zussman Studios, Photography Studios. But I had a meeting with Moshe and told the woman I was dating with, and I'm in my 40s. And I'm like, I'm like, you should understand this. And she was in sales and marketing. That's what she did for a living. And she got upset with me because I couldn't come and have dinner with her. And I went, what are you talking about? I told you, I've been telling you all week, I've got a meeting with Moshe. Well, what? Well, can't you change it? No. And I was like, I'll see you in a couple of days. People will get in your way. But I tell you, I swear to you, I dated about, a couple women, after I got divorced. After my book came out, I'm not making this up. After my book came out, this is the phony. So you have genuine showing up and concern and the phony. This is the phoniness. After my book came out in the summer of 2012, the 5 women I had dated and 3 that I had never dated all hit me up on Facebook.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
All hit me up. Someone, oh, I see you got your book. Oh, we should get together and hang out. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm not making it up, man. I'm not making it up.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Thank you for so much for that. Um, before we let you go, I
Sure.
will ask two more questions before we let you go. What is your what does success look like to you?
Um, well, I don't know. You seem. I'm looking at some of the anime behind you. I don't know if are you a Star Trek fan?
No, well, my friend is. I watched the new version. You are? And you're a
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Star Trek?
I grew up. Remember, I grew up on. Remember, I was born in '65, so I watched the original and then Next Generation, and I'm also a massive Star Wars fan. And I see you got Vegeta, Goku, Trunks back there. I'm on it. I'm on it. Believe me. You know, um, is that Bulma? You got Bulma back there? Looks like Bulma back there.
No, no, that's not Bulma. I just no, I got Naruto. One Piece. What's its name? Krillin. Krillin.
Krillin. That's okay. That's right. I'll say so. But anyway, um, but until Star Trek universe, money is no longer an issue. Everybody is working for the betterment of humanity. Well, until we reach that point, we all need money to survive. So, happiness is basically making, being able to, just treat people right, do good. We're all gonna make mistakes. You learn from your mistakes and move on. Your pros outweigh your cons because again, we're all gonna make mistakes. Little mistakes, big mistakes, and everything in between. But just treat people right, man, and make enough money to take care of your family, maybe pass down something to your kids and stuff like that. And you can, when you're on your deathbed, you can look back in life and say, man, I think I did okay. I think I did okay. Because we're all going to hit the dirt.
Right.
That's just a definite.
I,
But that's what it is. You don't have to step on people in order to get ahead. You really don't. And I've seen it in my system. People trying to step on somebody just to get to one up somebody. I'm like, what for? It's happened to me, but I'm like, okay. You want to say this about me online? That's on you. Because again, it's wasted energy. Let me get out there and promote. Let me get out there and do. Let me get out there and hustle. Let those that are in your circle or around see. Let them make the decisions. So.
Okay, so you're more basically around like, living your passion and maybe passing it down, right? That's what you're saying for success, right?
Sure, but you know
Yeah,
what? I'm gonna use a line from Star Trek, First Contact, where in Star Trek lore, Zefram Cochrane is the person who discovered warp drive, and so in the movie First Contact, they have to go back in the past, Earth's past, and stop the Borg from stopping the first warp drive, and so Riker is in the ship with Cochrane. And he tells him, Cochrane tells him what his philosophy is on life. And Riker says, someone once said, don't try to be a great man, just be a man and let history make his own judgment. And Cochrane goes, that's rhetorical nonsense. And he says, who said that? He says, you did 10 years from now. But that's what it is. Don't try to be great. Just be you. Just be you. You can only be you. Like Snoop Dogg. They said Snoop says they wanted him to rap a certain way, like the new artists, rap like Drake. He said, that ain't me. He said, I can't rap like that. That's them guys. He said, you can't be nothing but you. You can only be you. Do what you do best. Do you. And if you're doing right, let other people make the decisions. But as long as you know you're doing right, you can sleep good.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. Where can we find you online? Go ahead.
I'm on Facebook. So I get quite a few friend requests. I don't acknowledge all of them because I just don't know a lot of people. I'm not, again, I'm 52. I'm not 32 or 22. So I'm not a millennial. So I'm not into collecting friends. And I can tell you honestly, you're only going to have about 5 real friends in your life, in your entire life that you can call friends. I mean, people that would take a bullet for you. 5. If you get to 6, you got 1 friend too many. Get rid of 1. But so I don't acknowledge a lot of friend requests because I just don't. I just, I can't communicate with everybody. There's certain teachers that I've come up with through the tournament circuit. We're now teachers, so I know them. So I've got, I'm with them, and we, or I've heard of this teacher, so I know this teacher through this person, stuff like that. So, but I'm on Facebook. If
You
anybody
also got the fan page, right?
I got
Sorry,
yeah,
go
I
ahead.
got the other Facebook page. I got my private. I got my more business page, which I need to really get more in line with. But if people wanted to, look me up for seminars and workshops, the best way to catch me is through my email, and I'll throw it out there. Is Ron dot. It's all lowercase. Ron dot Wheeler, WHEELER 1, just the number 1, at yahoo.com, or you can friend request me on Facebook and send me a private message that way. So
Okay, thank you.
I'm not on Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking the time to this interview. I hope that you have an amazing year coming this year, because keep warm. I know it's cold. And that's pretty much. Thank you for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.